It's my favorite cold open, the pop songs of 1997, and I'm going to sing about it. I especially like to do the 25-year-old pop songs because I can speak to them really well normally. It's when we get into the 40s that I'm like, oh, I got to YouTube this. But the top 3 songs are kind of all over the place for 1987. So number 3 was I'll Be Missing You, Puff Daddy featuring Faith Evans, and 112.
Thinking of the day when you went away. What a life to take, what a bond to break. I'll be missing you.
It's kinda hard with you not around me. Know you in.
That was about the untimely demise of the Notorious B.I.G. Notorious B.I.G. and Faith Evans were boyfriend-girlfriend. I'm a big hip-hop and rap person, so I'm sort of fascinated by the Biggie versus Tupac feud. And if you haven't listened to the slow burn on it, on another podcast, call us Slow Burn, you should. So do you guys know that song? It has the I'll be missing you.
Oh yeah,
in the
it's
background.
the whole yep. I remember it.
Yeah.
2 of our songs on this list are about untimely demises. Actually, so it's kind of a the theme, the styles are all over the place, but the themes are pretty tight.
It's true. Matt, do you know that song? Do you know the song that we're talking about?
Vaguely.
Okay.
I'm not really knowledgeable when it comes to hip hop.
I'm not rapping, but I think that you would know it if you heard it.
Talk to me about Gilbert and Sullivan, and I'll.
Oh yeah.
I'm
the very model of a modern Major General is not on this 1997 list. Just FYI. Number 2 is you were meant for me.
Are you shading Jules?
Trains last so long, even after you're gone. I know that you love me, and so you will see. You're meant for me, and I was meant for you.
But I do a great interpretive dance to Foolish Games, so I'm really fun at parties, guys.
I believe that.
And then number 1 is probably the biggest song, and I know we actually touched on this last week. Probably the biggest song, I would say, of the last 25 years. It was number 1 for a bazillion weeks, and it's "Candle in the Wind," the 97 version about the, as Eric said, the untimely death of Princess Diana.
Goodbye, England's rose. May you ever grow in our hearts. You were the grace that placed itself where lives were torn apart. You called out to our country and you whispered,
R.I.P. I mean, I don't understand. I mean, he just took a song he already have and just put "Goodbye English Rose" in there, but it was,
But he
what did you
played
say?
it at the funeral.
He played at a funeral on like a white piano,
Yes.
and what did you say? 2.5 billion people or something watched the funeral.
Half the globe watched the funeral,
So-
and he was her friend, and
Right.
there's a whole story.
Yeah, of course. But yes. So, I mean, really a wild ride in the top 3 pop songs this year for 1997.
But I'm just going to say, I'm at me if you must. I prefer the original version about Marilyn Monroe. But
I mean, obviously, isn't that a known thing? Is that not a known thing?
I think I doubt that I'm alone in that feeling.
Matt is agnostic about either "Candle in the Wind."
Yeah, it's a sappy song. So.
All right, we'll play the Mikado for you later, Matt.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Memories light the corners of my mind. Misty watercolor memories.
of the way we were. Scattered pictures of the smiles we left behind, smiles we gave to one another for the way we were.
Well, welcome everyone to the Rewind Project. I am Eric.
I'm Allie.
I'm Matt.
And this week we are talking about a movie that is 25 years old, and boy, I can feel each one of those 25 years as I watch this one. This is In and Out, directed by Frank Oz, written by Paul Rudnick, who I'm just going to say, as far as I can tell, is the only gay person involved in this entire production. And I think that matters. I think that matters.
That's
I do.
true.
Because
I think you're right.
the screenwriter doesn't even need to be on the set. You know, it's just he writes the script and then hands it in, and everyone else just kind of ran with it. But this was a zany, funny comedy about gay people at a time when homosexuality was a big kind of...
Was it about gay people?
Was it zany?
I think this is what it wanted to be. Let's put it that way. But yeah, I think it was pretty zany. I mean, that's I think my main criticism of this movie is something about its zaniness, which I'm sure we'll get into. Directed by Frank Oz, who for me is always and forever the voice of Miss Piggy, who also directs movies every once in a while. And this was a film that was about gay identity and gay rights. 1997, folks, I just went online just to kind of say, where were we in 1997, right? Massachusetts was the first state to legalize same-sex marriage, but that didn't happen until 2004.
Okay. Wow.
Same-sex marriage across the entire country didn't happen until 2015. It's only been legal everywhere in the U.S. for 7 years.
It feels like forever and not at all.
Yes.
When you say 7 years, do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it feels like it's been, it's been in the books forever, but also I feel like it just happened. And I remember the celebration, well, for me and for all of us, the celebrations when it was finally passed.
But that was 7 years ago, and this movie is 25 years ago. I mean, I think in 1997, I certainly never believed that I would see same-sex marriage in my lifetime. So that's just kind of where we were about gay people and being gay in the world. And I was gay. I was out to myself. Finally, I was 25 before I kind of became conscious of this fact about myself, which is why when Matt and I were watching this movie together, he's like, come on, he's 40 years old. I'm like, it's possible to live in denial for a very long time. I can attest to this.
I mean, I was in college in 97 and I graduated in 99. And a lot of men that I went to college with did not come out until after 99. So I was actually thinking about a lot of the people who were my friends, but didn't feel like they could or didn't know or, whatever the circumstance. But, it took them another 2 years after this movie came out for them to come out. And it was certainly after college.
Yeah. And I graduated in 92. I didn't know any gay people in college, but of course, thanks to Facebook, I now know that quite a few of them were gay, including me. And,
right.
And I have friends from high school who will occasionally reach out to me and say, my son just came out. What should I say? You're the only gay person I know. Wow. And so, I mean, Facebook is kind of evil, but also it does some good in the world, I guess. Anyway, In and Out, 1997. Oh, the other thing, 1997, folks, was the year that Ellen DeGeneres came out of the closet on her sitcom.
That was such a thing. I remember she was on the cover of Time.
Yes, she was on the cover of Time magazine just for saying, I'm a lesbian. That was national news. So when we look at this movie and we kind of think everyone's overreacting a little bit, well, for the time, maybe they were, maybe they weren't. I mean, I don't think this movie has aged particularly well, but it's maybe not all the movie's fault. It's just we are so far beyond where this is. And then yes and no, right? Because I just read a news article this morning about the governor of Texas who is investigating parents of transgender kids. If they support their transgender children, these parents are being investigated for child abuse.
It's so fucked up.
That's what's happening in Texas right now. So, yes, we're light years away, and we've barely moved an inch because that's the way social justice works, I guess. But anyway, we're watching this movie that was meant to be delightful and funny and jokey. Notable achievements for In and Out. This movie was an Oscar nominee for Best Supporting Actress.
I have no recollection of that either. None.
Joan Cusack also won Best Supporting Actress from several critics associations who actually did honor her as the best performance by a woman in a supporting role that year. Also, this movie was the best film at the GLAAD Awards, which of course is all about good movies for gay and lesbians.
Really?
Again, if this were made today, would GLAAD be celebrating this movie? I don't know, but for the time, it was a step forward, I guess. And also, I thought this was hilarious. It was a nominee for Best Kiss at the MTV Movie Awards. That kiss was pretty funny.
That kiss was funny.
It was funny, and it was kind of like it was longer and deeper than I remembered it being.
As a kiss with Tom Selleck should be.
Listen, Tom Selleck is kind of like, he's an arch conservative who sells a lot of reverse mortgages, but is still to this day, if he planted one on me, I think I might react in much the same way.
Yeah. No shame in that game.
Okay. So here's the basic setup of this movie. There's a small town English teacher in his 40s who is outed by a former student on national television, but he doesn't even know he's gay. But the student apparently does. And throughout this process, this teacher comes to terms with his own sexuality and eventually comes out of the closet.
Weird.
Now, it's funny. Before we started this movie, Matt and I both kind of had it in our minds that he realizes he's gay, like at the very end of the movie. And when he actually says the words, "I'm gay," I looked at the time and we still had quite a bit of movie to go.
I did the same thing when I watched it.
So I was kind of surprised by that. My memory did not serve me well when I kind of remembered that particular course of events.
Yeah, not at all.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was so much like wrap up. There was like a lot of wrap up to it.
A lot of wrap up and a lot of unsatisfying wrap up, which we'll get into. We'll get into that. But first, let's get into this cast. You know what? I don't love everything about this movie, but I sure love everything about Kevin Kline.
Yeah.
He's just one of my favorites. I crossed this off my bucket list a couple years back when I saw him on Broadway in Present Laughter. He was a riot and so handsome and so charming and just so lovely. I love Kevin Kline. He plays Howard Brackett, this small town English teacher in his 40s who is coming to terms with being gay.
So, I have a thing about like hottest movie, like this person is the hottest in their movie. So I think that his hottest movie is Dave, but I think this is a close second. I was determining that.
If he got a shower scene in this one could have competed.
It's up there, but I think he's at his hottest in Dave. That's my opinion.
Okay.
I'd agree with you there.
Sure. I mean, in a way, he was really hot but also repulsive in A Fish Called Wanda.
I've actually never seen that.
Oh my gosh, really?
I know.
I think you'd like it.
It is a beautiful. I know everybody like my best friend growing up. It's like one of her favorite movies, and she still can't believe that I've never seen it before.
I mean, he got an Oscar for A Fish Called Wanda, which is shocking that anybody gets an Oscar for a comedy that broad. I mean, he's a dumb asshole who only is where he is in life because he's handsome. So you need someone who's handsome to do it, but he's like trading on his handsomeness. I would also say that he's pretty hot in Soap Dish.
Oh my God. I can't believe I even forgot about that movie. That's like one of my all-time favorite movies. He's extremely hot in that movie.
Yeah. So, but I mean, look, Kevin Kline's just hot. Okay. I mean, varying degrees of hotness.
Let's not forget the Pirates of Penzance.
All right.
We're really bringing it back. We're bringing it back to the Gilbert and Sullivan today, Matt.
Yeah, you're really into this. I was about to say Sophie's Choice, still pretty hot.
Oh, I've never seen that. I read the book, but I've never seen the movie.
The movie is harrowing, but Kevin Kline is very good, very good. I mean, and Meryl Streep gets, of course, deservedly all the, but Kevin Kline played bipolar before anyone even knew that was a thing. Really, really well. He's a great actor, but, mostly I think of him as being affable and funny and charming. But he can take on those dramatic roles pretty well as well. Anyway, do we have anything else to say about Kevin Kline besides how much we love him?
I think he's in the Paul Rudd category, too, that, he's one of those guys that he can play gay anytime he wants. I'm fine with it.
Yeah, he can join Stanley Tucci and Paul Rudd as the straight men who are always allowed to play gay as far as I'm concerned because they just do it really well. Although, I have to say, and that's part of my whole issue with this whole movie, is that Kevin Kline never read to me as absolutely gay. I mean, when Paul Rudd plays gay, it's obvious this is a gay man. Like, I don't know what he does. It's not offensive. It's not over the top. It's not stereotypical, but it's absolutely 100% gay. And I recognize him as a gay man immediately.
Interesting.
And I don't know that I did that with, and maybe the whole thing was, 97. Maybe Kevin Kline was going for this whole gay people are just like all of us. So I'm not going to be super obvious, even though everyone else seems to know.
I think the script, though, is just not a great script. I think that's what it is that it's, he doesn't realize he's gay until halfway through the movie when he's at the altar and decides, no, I actually am gay. And then, because at that point, he has this epiphany that, oh, you know what, I can't marry you. I actually am gay. Even though I know we debated this. I knew at 14 I was gay. I didn't come out until I was 25, but I knew I was gay at 14.
See, and I didn't. I knew I was gay at 25, and I started to come out very quickly after that fact. But I was actually at an audition, and a man grabbed me by both sides of my face and planted one on me and kissed me for what seemed like a year, and my head exploded, and that's what did it.
Like the movie.
Just like the movie. And so for me, I was a little like, come on, Kevin, if Tom Selleck kissed you, you'd know pretty quick whether you were gay or not. I mean, did you almost have an orgasm? Because I almost did.
Right.
When 25 years of pent-up sexuality just rose to the surface all at once, that happened, So, I mean, I can see it, but I also kind of know that sometimes you know things when you have to know them, and I think when Kevin Kline just saw that he was going to ruin his life and his fiance's life if he said, I do, he just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you do have to be in those situations.
Yeah.
The very last girlfriend I had, I broke up at a very inconvenient time because we were about to take the relationship to the next level, and I could not do it.
Interesting.
So,
Which is, yeah.
That's when it happened.
My last girlfriend was in high school because there was no point. But I think I appreciate from him that he didn't change the nature of the character. He was still the same person. He just realized he actually did like men and was attracted to him. And that's really all homosexuality is an attraction to the same sex. So there's no being gay. That is being gay. It's just being attracted to the same sex. So I don't know that there really has to be any kind of personality associated with it. So I think
yeah,
he was
you know what
fine.
I'm talking about, Matt. When Paul Rudd plays gay, it's like, oh, that's a gay man.
But is that necessarily true?
Well,
can you always clock a gay person?
Tell you what.
I don't feel like we should stereotype everybody like
9 times out of 10, though, are we right? We are.
9 times out of 10. But, yeah.
So it's not nothing. There is, in addition to a sexual orientation, there is also a gay culture.
But I wonder if that's learned behavior and he wouldn't have learned it yet.
I don't know. I mean, how many stories have I heard about young boys who tried on their mother's high-heeled shoes as soon as they could possibly, and everyone kind of, all those other stories that you've heard about what young gay boys, before they even knew what homosexuality was, were dabbling in stereotypically feminine behaviors. And the joke is, oh, should have known when I was 3.
Even I, as a straight woman, I'm right 6 out of 10 times, probably.
Yeah, there's a thing.
Right.
And we'll get into this whole, what does it mean to be gay? Because I think the movie is rather confused about that. But also, what kind of movie does this movie want to be? We're definitely going to come back to that. First, let's get through the rest of this cast list. Joan Cusack, who got the majority of the laurels and awards attention that came from this movie. She was fabulous. I mean, funny as hell.
I love her so much.
Her intensity in every single movie, like Addams Family Values. I mean, everything that she's in, she's just hilarious. She has this ability to just simmer, and then all of a sudden it just kind of explodes into comedy. Like when she it doesn't overreact, when she gets overly emotional, like after when she gets left at the altar, and they have that very real conversation, and she has a very legitimate reaction to being left at the altar. Like, you couldn't have done this beforehand. I've lost all this effing weight for you. But there's something funny about it as she's doing it too. She's one of those rare people that can actually do that kind of thing.
Yeah, I didn't love the whole storyline about her weight. I need to say that. I did not love that.
I was about to say that. Like, I have to say that out of everything in this movie, and I understand that I am not a gay man, though, you know, some may say I relate. But the whole weight thing, and, you know, I'm not going to get into it on the pod, but I think, you know, a lot of people listening, men and women, you know, the pandemic was the first time in my adult life where I didn't have to worry about what I was eating, what I was doing, because you're literally just trying to survive. And it was, you know, I hate to use the word triggering because I feel like it's kind of overused these days, but like all of that weight subplot and finding her, you know, wrapping her self-esteem about her weight, that has not changed in 25 years. In fact, I think it might have even gotten worse. So that was really hard for me to watch throughout the movie.
Well, and it really made Howard's character seem very shallow because she seemed to have done it for him.
Right.
And
well, I think she did it because she was wondering why he wasn't proposing, and she was blaming herself, as women are wont to do. My main thing with it is that not only was it slightly offensive, it wasn't even very funny. I mean, I just didn't find
funny at all.
There's nothing. I mean, it wasn't ever even framed as a joke. It's just not funny.
No.
I mean, I just didn't I didn't get it. It was dumb. But everything else about her was great. I have to say, my favorite Joan Cusack performance ever of all time is kind of not what you're describing, Matt. She's actually she underplays it. But Working Girl, she is
that's my
absolutely
favorite.
Brilliant.
I've never seen Working Girl.
Oh, she is she was nominated for an Oscar for that one too.
That movie is Harrison Ford's hottest movie, and it's such a good movie, and I can quote it. I mean, I don't want to do a whole, I'm not going to do a Joan Cusack impersonation because I could never, but when she calmly tells her friend who is pretending to be a high-powered executive that sometimes she sings and dances in her underwear, but it doesn't make her Madonna. It is the funniest thing. I mean, and the eyeshadow that's like 5 different colors. Oh my God. And the hair.
80s hair that is like this mane. I mean, it is just, she is priceless in that movie. Okay. Tom Selleck as Peter Malloy, entertainment reporter to the stars.
I mean, it was really jarring to see him without his mustache. That's all I gotta say. I didn't even recognize him at first. And, you know, I love Tom Selleck as Tom Selleck hotness. I understand that he's problematic now in 2022. But, it was really jarring. And I think he's hotter with the mustache. And I never say that. I never say that about facial hair ever. But I think he's hotter.
I am not a fan of the existential mustache. Like, typically men in mustaches do not really do it for me. I like a beard. I like a goatee. A mustache by itself, why? What are you doing? Tom Selleck looks really hot in a mustache, but I have to say I remembered him in this movie and immediately thinking, why'd he shave the mustache? And when I saw him this time, I was like, he's still pretty fucking hot. He just is.
True.
He just is.
True. But I don't know. It was like, it took me out of it a little bit. I don't know why. And
despite everything that we've been saying about how gay in this movie is kind of, you know, everything else but who you're attracted to, Tom Selleck, it was nice to see him play someone who is just very comfortable in his own skin, very masculine.
Yep.
No problem saying I'm gay. Done. I mean, it was kind of nice that he was also in the movie, because if it wasn't for him, Kevin Kline would have been the only gay character in this whole thing.
Yeah. And Kevin Kline's character was more quintessentially gay, I guess.
Stereotypically gay, yeah.
Caricature-y gay.
Yeah, exactly. So I definitely appreciated Tom Selleck's character.
All right. But the gayest hair in the movie definitely goes to Matt Dillon.
Wow. And those pleated khakis he's wearing at the end, I was like, that is some classic 1997 right there.
Oh, yeah. So Cameron Drake is this actor who used to be in Kevin Kline's classroom, who becomes an Oscar winner for the most ridiculous movie. I mean, first of all, no Oscar reel is that long.
No.
Right,
You saw
ever.
the whole movie. You saw the whole movie, basically.
I mean, you got the whole, 5-minute highlight reel from this movie, but you could tell that Paul Rudnick was having a lot of fun skewering all of those stereotypes of how brave it is to play gay and how brave gay people are in these movies. But anyway, he played a gay soldier who is drummed out of the military for being gay. And when his Oscar is announced and he goes up and he collects it, he decides to give a little shout out to his favorite teacher, Howard Brackett, who taught him about Shakespeare and blah, 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 and then capped off his whole speech with, "and he's gay." And then it kind of cuts ridiculous. To everyone in Greenfield, Indiana, staring at the screen with big wide eyes, including Kevin Kline himself, going, "What the fuck just happened?" Now, here's where I think that Paul Rudnick lives in a slightly skewed universe, is that he's writing about this town, which is the epitome of heterosexuality, in which every man, woman, and child are watching the Oscars.
Right.
Well, I think this time they were watching because Cameron was in it, I think is the reason.
Okay, maybe. Watching. But I kind of I was wondering, if Matt Dillon became a quarterback for the NFL and he outed his teacher during the Super Bowl, that might have made a little bit more sense, because I could actually see everybody in town gathered around their TV watching maybe the Super Bowl. The Oscars, even in 97, the Oscars did not get a huge audience, at least compared to, listen, before we had a million channels, maybe it was the only thing on a Sunday night, when you still had to DVR everything.
I mean, true.
Or tape it. I don't even know if the DVR was around.
Definitely. DVR is 2000s for sure.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I think I had to actually put a VHS tape in the machine and hit record to get Ellen's show when she came out, because I knew I wanted to save it. But yeah. So, everyone's watching the Oscars, and then he kind of disappears after that until the very end. He kind of understands that he's unleashed this firestorm in his English teacher's life, and decides he needs to go back home with his girlfriend. Now it's funny. The weight jokes with the girlfriend, I actually thought were funny. I have a photo shoot this afternoon. I still have to shower and vomit. I don't know. That made me laugh.
Yeah.
Didn't love it with the whole Joan Cusack storyline, but the supermodel stuff, you can always make fun of supermodels. I feel like that's punching up.
I think it was funny too, because that character was played by an actual supermodel. Shalom Harlow was an actual supermodel.
Yes. So yeah. So kind of making fun of herself, and
there's that too.
Yeah. Anyway.
Right.
The supporting cast for this movie is also pretty great. Always love to see Bob Newhart. He showed up as the awful homophobic principal. I mean, truly a despicable character. Yes, but very Bob Newhart in his kind of befuddledness and not quite knowing how to be a homophobic monster, although managing pretty well by the end.
Yeah, I mean, he did all right.
So I was confused by that, though. Maybe it's just because it's Bob Newhart and his befuddledness. I couldn't tell if it was actually parents were calling in concerned, or if he was just making that up, saying parents were concerned, and so that's why he took the action that he did at the end of the film. So I wasn't sure.
I felt like he was trying to prevent any controversy from happening because he doesn't like when things get out of his control.
Gotcha. Okay.
He gets even more befuddled.
Because the end of the movie, when they're graduating, it belies his theory that people were calling in and saying, "Hey, you can't. We don't really want to see this," because there was absolutely nobody in that auditorium that didn't stand up and say, "Hey, I'm gay too." So,
well, I mean, okay,
which is surprising that happened in 1997.
"I am Spartacus" thing.
You sure can.
Oh my god, we
can talk about it for 20 minutes.
I'm Spartacus Hagador. Yes.
If only Hank Azaria showed up.
And said, "I'm Spartacus," that would have been great. But, clearly that was an homage to Spartacus, right? Which is also, kind of an important movie to a lot of gay people just because it's one of those swords and sandals and beefcake kind of things.
Is that true?
Yeah. I mean,
I didn't know that.
Yeah. I mean, well, just that whole genre is just campy. I didn't know that either. I mean, it's like What was that stupid Coen Brothers movie, Hail Caesar, where Channing Tatum was like...
Oh, it was awful. That was awful.
Yeah, I mean, it's that whole kind of... It's just that swords and sandals epic kind of thing. I mean, Steve Reeves made a lot of those movies, and there was a big hunk of beefcake. And, you know, a whole lot of just, you know, gay men just liked them because they featured a lot of scantily clad men.
What's the famous one where it's like takes place in Roman times, but is actually like a lot of sex? What's that one?
Caligula?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like that.
So anyway, you know, there's this whole scene at the end where instead of I am Spartacus, everyone stands up and says I'm gay, which is just like I don't want to speak for all gay men. That's not what I want from my allies.
Noted.
You don't need to claim that you're gay. I mean, it just kind of, you know, if they'd stood up and said, I don't want him to go, that would have been just fine. But it wouldn't have had the same kind of Spartacus reference, I guess. The whole thing struck me as very weird.
It was weird. It was like they were trying to like tie it up. I don't know.
I thought the kid was actually going to come out because I couldn't remember the end of the film. Because like you, I thought he came out at the end of the movie, so I was completely lost and couldn't remember what happened. So I thought maybe the kid was going to come out and say, I am gay."
I thought he was gay. That one kid.
I thought so too. So
okay, good. I was like, oh, he's going to come out, but I was like, oh no, he didn't really come out. He just like jokingly came out.
Well, yeah, but in 1997, I don't think they would have made that kid gay because then it was like, oh, see, Kevin Kline did make one of his students gay.
Oh yeah, I guess you're right.
You know,
I'm looking at it from a 22 lens, where like
25 years ago, that would not have been a cool ending to that movie. So no, I mean, it never that didn't occur to me. Anyway, I just thought the whole thing was dumb. Like a lot of the things in the script, I thought some of it was great, and then some of it was just dumb. Wilford Brimley,
I love him,
played Frank Brackett, Kevin Kline's father.
I will always have a soft spot for Cocoon.
I love some Wilford Brimley. I don't quite know what to think about Frank as a character.
I think he ends up being like a lot of dads in that era were, though. Like, you know, I don't know how to deal with you, but I still love you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm not...
I can't relate, but I love you.
Yeah, I can't relate. I don't necessarily agree with it, but you're still my kid and I love you. And I have to say, as a parent, if that's all you can muster, at least saying I love you and I still love you, that's enough. Really.
Yeah. Oh, that's absolutely.
I mean?
Absolutely. But I think in contrast, Debbie Reynolds as Bernice Brackett, she had a character. Yeah. I mean, she had, like, you knew exactly who that woman was. You know what I mean?
Right.
And, you know, I mean, her two best moments in the whole thing are, you know, my mom doesn't think it'll last. Well, your mother's an alcoholic. That is just, you know.
I laughed so hard. I was laughing so hard I almost fell off my bed. That was really great. I forgot about that. It was very funny.
That one and the moment where she's like, I would love you no matter what, honey, but I need a wedding. I need some happiness in my life. I mean, that was just kind of, and it occurred to me after this was over, you know, by 1997, Debbie Reynolds was very much aware that her daughter, Carrie Fisher, had married a gay man who later came out of the closet and divorced her. And I mean, that happened in her own family. So I just kind of, it just occurred to me, like, I wonder what she thinks about this whole movie and this whole story. And I wonder if she had other opinions.
Maybe that's why she signed on.
Maybe.
I mean, if you're in Hollywood, the chances that you know gay people and interact with them on a daily basis is a lot higher than a lot of other industries. I mean, Debbie Reynolds has probably been dealing with gay people for a long
Oh, sure. I'm not suggesting that Carrie Fisher's ex is the first gay man she ever met at all. But this particular issue was really in her own family. You know, True. I mean, her daughter fell in love with a man, married him, who later came out of the closet. I mean, so I just kind of wondered, like, what's Debbie's take on this whole thing? And what would it be now? Like, I just wonder if she would look, I mean, if she were still with us, Debbie Reynolds, R.I.P.
R.I.P.
You know, if she were to look at this and I wonder how she would have thought it aged.
Be an interesting question.
Yeah. Yeah. And then finally, to round out our cast, we've got a couple of, I love a cameo. I always love a good cameo. Lots of cameos in this one, but the three that really kind of stood out to me the most were Jay Leno, Whoopi Goldberg, and hilarious Glenn Close.
I mean, the
all
best.
Played themselves. Glenn Close's cameo was kind of brilliant. She was playing herself, introducing the Best Actor nominees at the Oscars and going through all the other nominees and the names of the films that they were associated with. Of course, we're going to be talking about Fatal Attraction in just a hot minute.
I can't wait.
When she announces Michael Douglas in Primal Urges, I just about died.
He gives a little kiss to him too, and so it's like a good callback to Fatal Attraction. I love. I don't think I ever saw that when I had seen this before, but I definitely saw it this time.
Well, and of course, Glenn Close followed up Fatal Attraction by doing period dramas and like all these other kinds of things, and Michael Douglas went right from Fatal Attraction to Basic Instinct. Which
also a good movie.
It could be, but Basic Instinct, Primal Urges. I mean, it's a it's a bit of a dig. It was pretty funny.
It was pretty funny, and I got to give a shout out. Not listed on the cast list, but I just finished the entire series so far of Succession. I'm caught up to the rest of America, and shout out to Joan Cusack's best friend, played by the actress who plays Jerry on Succession. That was a nice little throwback for me.
And Lauren Ambrose, who was my fave in 6 Feet Under. A lot of great people in this cast. Yeah. So we've been talking about this, but the first kind of discussion topic I wanted to bring to us for this episode, I called it "We're Far Out There, Barbra Streisand," because
Papa, can you hear me?
She was too old for Yentl.
Barbara should have had screen credit for this. I mean, she's mentioned
a cameo or something.
Much. Yeah, it's too bad they couldn't get her
that would be
to
amazing.
do it. She could have been singing at Frank and Bernice's vow renewal at the end. That would have been hilarious. But yeah, there's this whole first of all, let's just go back to the very beginning. Why do you think Cameron was so sure that Howard was gay?
I mean, the only thing that I can think of is sort of what you referenced earlier, because I'm sort of at a loss, Matt, was that, maybe he went to Hollywood and he started hanging around a lot of gay people and realized that, he had similar stuff. I don't know. I have no idea where that came from. It's out of left field to me.
Well, I think there is a stereotype that gay people are maybe a little bit more, I don't know, clean, neat, a little bit more organized, well put together, and which is completely not true. But I mean, look at me. I can be a complete and total slob at all times if I really just don't pay attention. I love musical theater. I mean, know a lot about culture and stuff like that. And there's a lot of stereotypes about that. It's stereotypes that we don't enjoy sports, a lot of things like that. And I have a feeling we're playing off of that. If I look at Howard and his character, he was just a little bit too prissy. And so he was assumed to be gay.
But I have to say, Matt, all of those stereotypes are true for 95% of our friends. I mean, how often do you hear us all go, ugh, sports ball, who cares? None of us will. I mean, listen.
But is that because none of us like sports, so we all kind of congregate together because we don't like sports?
Maybe, but
and I bet there's a bunch of gay people out there that do like
musical
sports.
Theater is delightful. If it's not a gay thing, then why don't more straight men love musical theater? Some do, but gay men like it a whole lot more, and we could probably prove that with data if we needed to.
I mean, I got to give a shout out to, one of my really good friends, Ernie, who will sit and watch football with me and come over for a football game. So, and Ernie is gay. So
it happens. But I mean, this whole idea, they're going to throw Howard a bachelor party and he's like, all right, let's bring on the straight porn and they're going to watch Funny Girl because that's what they know he likes. And then the funniest thing about it is he's made them all watch Barbra Streisand's entire film catalog so many times that now they all have opinions on it.
Right.
So is everyone at this bachelor party gay? The guy who's like, she was too old for Yentl, that sounds pretty gay to me too. But I think that's one of the things about this movie is that other than Tom Selleck planting a kiss on Kevin Kline and his very big, physical, hilarious reaction, do we have any other indication throughout this entire movie that Howard is into dudes?
No.
I don't. None.
I don't know that was the point of this film, honestly. I I struggle to understand what the point of this movie really was at the end of the day, and I have a feeling it was really for straight people to have an idea of like what coming out is. But
Yikes.
I don't think it really achieved that. So thankfully we have movies like Love, Simon now instead. We've got other movies that actually talk about people coming out and how difficult it is. Because at the end of this movie, they really, really kind of trivialize that. Where everybody in the town now stands up and says, well, I'm okay with it. That shit does not really happen all the time. And it did not in 97.
No. And I mean, I think the whole I am Spartacus, I am gay ending to me was, you know, Bob Newhart said he doesn't work here anymore. And everyone just went, oh, that's sad. Right? Because they all heard, obviously they all heard what happened at the wedding, but no one really argued with it. And then 4 courageous kids stood up to defend their teacher. And then a couple more courageous adults said, you know what? Good for those kids. I'm going to do the same. And it was kind of a loaves and fishes thing where all of a sudden everyone saw, oh, I could do this too. It's not that hard to do the right thing. So they all felt that it was the right thing, but none of them were brave enough to do it. Yeah. And that's what that scene was supposed to be. And I think it could have been very effective were they saying anything else but I am gay, which was just weird.
Mm-hmm. And on a personal note here, I was very lucky when I came out, and I had a lot of support from people. But I know a lot of people's horror stories, and it's just that's why I look at this movie and I feel like it trivialized it. So
well, and getting fired from your job for being gay was not an uncommon story in 1997. Mm-mm. So I think there was a moment where you're like, okay, this could happen. But to me, my biggest complaint with this movie is that you had a moment like that where it's like, okay, Howard has been fired from his job for being gay. And that sucks. But then, like, 20 minutes before, he was listening to this ridiculous Explore Your Masculinity cassette tape that was talking back to him in this very kind of surreal Saturday Night Live, Theater of the Absurd kind of way. And I just don't think Paul Rudnick has ever met a joke he didn't like.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think if he thought of a joke, he threw it in the movie. Whether or not it supported the characters, the plot, the theme, what are we trying to do with this story? What the hell's going on? If he thought it was funny, that trumped everything. And unfortunately for me, it made the whole thing less funny because I was like, what is this? Mm-hmm. If you'd made a movie that took place in the real world, but was also maybe slightly exaggerated or a little funny, or people are just slightly wittier than they are in real life kind of thing, the whole thing could have been hilarious to me. But it was just like, what are the rules of this universe that we're living in? I was just like, what am I watching?
It was a sitcom. It's really what it was. I mean, it was just about putting out jokes. It really didn't, the plot really didn't mean anything, in my opinion.
But it could have.
It could have.
This could have been a movie that actually moved people and might have even changed some minds.
Sure.
But I don't think that cassette tape thing, you know, stand up straight. Are we a teapot? I mean, how does the cassette know that Kevin Kline has his fist on his hip? It was funny. It was funny. Yes, but that's my point, Allie. It was funny though. That moment was funny, but how much did it kind of the whole movie didn't stand up?
Yeah.
Because all this different shit was going on.
Right. I agree. It was just a bunch of bits. I feel like it was a movie that was strung together with a bunch of bits. And like it could have been something, as you said, meaningful.
Yeah. Yeah. It could have been a lot more meaningful and still funny, I think.
Right.
You know, but it just you have to decide what the rules of the world are and then stick to them, because this was all over the map. And I think that in all those jokes, Paul Rudnick forgot to give Howard some moments where you could see that he was attracted to men. Mm-hmm. Because there were none, other than the kiss.
There were none. Zero.
None. Zero. It was all about Barbra Streisand. Oh, what a fabulous window treatment. I mean, you know, you can't wear that color, not with your coloring. I mean, you know, all of those external things.
Joan Cusack's character got more of a moment with Tom Selleck's character in the bar than I think than Kevin Kline did. You know what I mean? They had a much longer moment. Kevin got the kiss, but Joan, she started to have an attraction to him. It's like and that was something I didn't appreciate either. That she at that point was like, I'm just going to throw myself at any man because I just want to get married because that's all my life is about. Is I get to throw myself at somebody. Well, because I don't mean anything unless I'm with somebody.
I took a different tack from that. I think Joan Cusack was ready to be well and truly laid. She wanted sex.
Who among us? Who among us?
Well, but I mean, and literally, this was supposed to be the night. I had it in my head that perhaps, Howard and Emily have never slept together.
No, I don't think they have at all.
I don't think they had.
That was in the movie. They have never slept together because he respects her. Huh. She was waiting and waiting and waiting and thinking, tonight's the night. Damn it, she was going to take a man to bed. And that's really all she wanted from Tom Selleck. I don't think she was trying to marry him. She was just sick of being a virgin sitting around waiting to finally get it on.
But when she ran out of the bar and was like, for all the cars that were passing, and she's like already in the dress and saying that she's already in the dress, won't somebody marry me? That's the part I was just like, and she's on a downward spiral at that point.
Yeah,
I understand.
Yeah, which is a great time to meet her next boyfriend, which happens in that moment.
Which happens.
Because, of course, that happens, because that's what happens.
Yeah.
But he likes her for who she was and feeds her cheese curls. So, who doesn't want to get fed cheese curls?
Can I say something about that? I have to say that they clearly didn't shoot this in Indiana because Utz is, Pennsylvania, Delaware, Maryland, and would have not been in Indiana in 1997. I love Utz. It's my favorite. So I am going on record to say that. So thank you for that continuity.
It actually was not. It was filmed, I think, in New Jersey. Is that in New Jersey,
exactly.
too? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes. It was at that time, but it was really hard to get other places.
Yeah. But that kind of leads me to my next thing. Okay, so what do we feel about this ending? Where Howard is concerned, Howard is gay. Howard is now at peace with himself. Insofar as that goes, sure, it was a happy ending. But what's going on with him and Peter? Are they a couple?
It's funny. I read this article. I read this outline before I saw the ending of the movie, and I thought that it was going to be like more coupley at the end. But they just seemed like friends. And I don't know, maybe Tom Selleck will be his sort of gay Sherpa into the world. I don't know if that's a thing that exists. You can tell me, but I felt like it was more congenial and more like, okay, like, you helped me with this coming out. You were there for me, even though you're kind of scummy, but that's okay. But you're also still hot. I felt like a friendship vibe. I did not feel, and I think when I originally saw this movie, I thought a more coupley vibe, but I didn't feel that this time.
Honestly, I didn't need Howard to get together with anybody at the end of the movie, so I didn't need to see him paired off because you don't have to be paired off to be happy. And I love your idea of him being the gay Sherpa because you kind of, especially somebody that just comes out, you need that. Right. You need somebody to help you into it. Especially when all your friends are straight, it's hard jumping into a completely new universe. It really is. So having somebody to guide you and help you into it, that's, because it's a brand new group of people. There are their own cultural side effects to it. There's a lot of things you have to kind of understand, and having somebody help you get to know some of it is really a great thing to have.
I just want to put out kind of as a counterpoint to this, though, that one, I think a lot of people in 1997 probably saw that ending and did believe that Howard and Peter were a couple. Because you would never have seen them be more affectionate than they were because, again, this was all so controversial and, oh my God, gay people. I'm sure just getting into their tuxedos in the same house, people just assumed, and they're the only two gay characters in the whole movie. And, Allie and I go way back on this one. If it's not a romance, we don't need to tack on a boyfriend or a girlfriend at the end of the movie to make it happy. And yet, in 1997, I don't know that I love the idea of he comes out and now he's alone. Joan Cusack is partnered off, or at least has a boyfriend, so she got her quote unquote happy ending. But, if you come out, you will be alone for the rest of your life was unfortunately something that a lot of people in 97 did believe. And so this is one place where I might even make a little exception. Like, you know, I think in a perfect world, Howard and Peter would be friends at the end of this movie, but you would notice that Kevin Kline's got a age-appropriate, also cute man sitting next to him at the reception, and they might be canoodling in some kind of way. You know, don't need to know who it is.
The ending's ambiguous, though. You don't know if he's with Tom Selleck's character or not. So it could go either way. I mean, you can write your own happy ending at this.
That's wimpy. I'm just going to say it's wimpy.
I don't know. The ending, that part didn't bother me. I almost thought when they were fixing each other's bow ties that they were getting married, which was kind of
that's very 2022.
Well,
was very 2020. I'm like, wait a minute.
But that's exactly what they wanted you to think, I think.
Really?
Because people were having ceremonies. People were having ceremonies in 1997. Right. It wasn't legal, but gay people have been standing up and exchanging vows since, you know, the 80s. I absolutely thought that's what was happening as well. And then I kind of wondered, are we going to see Joan Cusack marry Matt Dillon?
That's what I thought. It was going to be them getting married. I forgot about the parents. I had no recollection of that at all.
And I actually thought the parents was probably the wimpiest ending. Because they were already a
Debbie
couple,
needed a wedding. She needed some happiness in her life.
That's true. She did. She did need a wedding. But yeah, you know, I mean, the whole idea about, you know, Joan meeting someone when she is at her lowest.
Right.
And then, you know, instant boyfriend. I'm like, okay, whatever.
Barf.
You know, I mean, there's so much about it. I just was kind of like, this had so much potential. And I feel like a lot of it was just kind of a misfire. But anyway, how's about some fun facts, folks?
I think I'm ready. My body is ready.
Okay. So we'd mentioned a little bit before, we talked about A Fish Called Wanda. The Oscar statuette that is given to Matt Dillon and he brings back to Indiana. Apparently, the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences are very stingy about handing out Oscars to use as props. So a fun fact last year for the First Wives Club was that Goldie Hawn's Oscar was actually her own. This Oscar was actually Kevin Kline's. He had to bring it in from his own house.
Ah, that's awesome.
It was the Oscar that he won for A Fish Called Wanda, and that's the Oscar they used as a prop. Because
amazing.
Oh, wow.
They kind of have to be found objects because Oscar does not like Oscars showing up in movies. So pretty much whenever you see one, they had to borrow, beg, and steal from somebody. And in this one, they were like, Kevin, can you bring in your Oscar? And he's like, yeah, I gotcha. Covered.
That's so cool.
So mental note, if I ever write a movie about somebody being an Oscar winner, I better hire an Oscar
exactly.
winner.
Exactly. They're just, you know, I mean, the list is long, but yes, probably needs or, you know, hire a makeup person who got an Oscar.
Yeah, a costume designer.
That'll work. All the Oscars are the same size, so that should be fine. The idea for Howard to be outed at the Oscars was actually inspired by the Oscar speech that Tom Hanks gave when he played a brave gay lawyer and got an Oscar for being so brave playing a gay man. And in his speech, he also thanked a teacher, and hopefully the teacher that Tom Hanks thanked really was gay or knew it and out and didn't cause a big, huge stink in his... Anyway, that's what started this whole screenplay rolling.
Actually, I heard, so I went to dinner with some friends last night. Shout out to Wesley and Chris, and I was letting them know that we were recording this today. And I was told that the teacher was not out.
Oh, really?
From Tom Hanks, yes. Again, I don't know what's true and what's not true. I've not done my quote-unquote research, but I was told that this person was not out.
Well, that even, you know, makes the idea, let's turn this into a movie even more, you know, because it actually followed the story a little bit.
Yeah.
And unfortunately for that teacher, his story probably wasn't as funny as this one.
Yeah.
No, probably not.
Probably did lose his job.
Yeah.
Thanks,
might have. He might have lost his job because, you know, that was 93, I believe. So, even worse.
Cool times.
Here's a not so fun fact. You know, a lot of this movie seemed really dated to me, and it's only because we've come a long way in 25 years, but also have we? Because there's also a bill in Florida. It's called the Don't Say Gay Bill that basically would end the careers of any openly gay teacher in the state. And it also restricts anybody in Florida from mentioning homosexuality, any gender variance other than cisgender, it basically makes high school and elementary school a completely no gays don't exist zone for all their kids. And it hasn't become law yet as of the recording date of this episode, but it has passed both the House and the Senate in Florida.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Fuck Florida. Fuck Governor DeSantis. We officially hate you.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't hate all Floridians. If you're a Floridian and you listen to our show, you know, God love you, but I'm sorry that you have to live there with all these assholes.
Well, what happens to kids that might have same-sex parents? Like they can't talk about their parents?
Yes, that's the whole thing, is that, you know, a lot of gay parents in Florida are like, so my child is effectively, my kindergartner can't let it slip in class that they have two moms. Absolutely, that's in the law. Yeah. Yes.
It's so ridiculous.
It is. I mean,
I fucking hope that state sinks.
Get pissed about it, because it's terrible what is happening, and it's happening in 2022. So hopefully 25 years we look back on this time in our life going, gosh, we've come a long way. But, you know, listen, sometimes this shit takes time. Well, on that happy note, let's play a game. Okay, so this game, I named this one for Allie. This is called Gimme an Issue, Gimme a Tissue, Cry Laugh Emoji.
I love it. Put it on a pillow.
Because I have a friend from long, long ago, actually back in the 90s, I was a huge fan of 10,000 Maniacs, the band. And my friend was like, ugh, I hate this band. They're so like, gimme an issue, gimme a tissue. And it's part of what I liked about them, but okay. I was like, I always thought that was kind of funny.
I love it.
So I remember that. Here's the game. A film studio, a major Hollywood studio, wants you to pitch a new zany comedy inspired by a hot button social issue of the day.
Oh boy.
So what are you going to do? How are you going to put this together? What is the plot of this movie? Who were a couple of your main characters in your socially important giggle fest of a popcorn movie? Allie, I believe you went last week, so I'm going to have Matt go first today.
Okay.
I'm going to make The Unmasked Truth a tale of personal rights.
Yes! Amazing.
We're going to get Christopher Guest to make this mockumentary for us with his general cast of zany people. And we're going to go around and we're going to interview, quote unquote, all these people who are not masking up, you know, to save their fellow Americans, and tell them why it's their personal right not to mask up and why they shouldn't have to. I almost went for vaccination, but I figured somebody else would actually probably select that. So I went for something even sillier, because you're not injecting anything into your body. You're actually just masking out on top. You got to wear a shirt, shoes, and pants to go into a store. So what's the difference of adding a mask? I find it insane and hilarious that people refuse to do it. So I thought this couldn't be any funnier. So yeah, that's what I'm going for.
A mockumentary about the anti-mask movement. I'm into it. Allie, go ahead.
Okay, so I didn't even think about masks or vaccinations or anything related to COVID, so hilarious. So mine is a movie. It's going to be called Critical Race Theory. And I am reuniting the great duo of Key and Peele. They don't do their show anymore, but it's just going to be a variety of sketches from them and, you know, some of their regular players about the pitfalls of critical race theory and teaching critical race theory.
So can we do it kind of like a Mel Brooks thing where it's like the history of America part black? Sure. And they can just do like Black America from the beginning.
Yeah, or even we could do part 1, part 2. Maybe this is part 2. This is this is current. You know, maybe like, I don't know, the March on Washington to now, something like that.
Jim Crow your own way, you know.
Yeah. But I just feel like I wish that they were on the air, because I feel like they would definitely do something related to critical race theory, and I think that a whole movie about sort of the Black experience could be.
Okay.
Hilarious.
You know what? I love it when we go in 3 completely different directions, because I was sure that somebody besides myself was going to make the abortion comedy, because that's where I went immediately.
I didn't even think about that either.
I went straight to reproductive rights. And so my movie is going to be about the daughter of a Texas Republican senator who gets pregnant and tells her mother, "Mom, I'm pregnant." And the mother says, "Your father can never know. You know, not only are we not going to tell him, he can never know this happened. It'll ruin his career. But we need to get you out of state because, of course, in Texas, abortion is pretty much banned. So, you know, by the time this girl figures out she's pregnant, she's already passed the insanely narrow window they give you in Texas to have rights over your own body. So they have to go to, you know, Oklahoma, Louisiana, Missouri, take your pick. So they're basically taking a road trip, and a very liberal reporter who's like from Austin, of course, hears about this and is chasing them out of state to try to get the story. So they're kind of on the road from this, you know, and so it's kind of getting it from both sides. So I kind of see like an Allison Janney type as the mom, and like a Kate McKinnon type as the reporter, right? And you know, it would be a very heavily female cast, all sides of the issue, but basically, you know, shining a light a little bit on the hypocrisy of people who claim to be very anti-choice until they need it in their own lives, and then they make the completely opposite decision. Anyway, so Abortion, the comedy.
Yay!
There you go.
I like it.
Yeah, I think all three of these would be really fun. And I think they'd probably all be, well, we're going to get there, maybe better than In-N-Out was. It is time for Skip, Rent, or Buy. You know, I picked this movie, and I didn't pick it because I loved it. I picked it because I thought this could be an interesting conversation.
And it was.
So I will say that I really enjoyed the conversation with the two of you, but I am now ready to hear your verdict. Skip means, I'm sorry I watched it. I need brain bleach. Why won't the memories go away? Rent means I'm glad I saw it, but I'm not going to watch this one again. Buy means I will watch this movie again and again and quote it incessantly at parties for the rest of my life. Allie, where do you fall with In-N-Out?
You know, I feel a little warm about this movie. I enjoyed it. It was it's only an hour and a half, which, you know, I love. My attention span is literally nothing these days. And I gotta say, I'm a solid Rent. You know, I watched it when it came out. I remembered a third of it, probably. I did laugh. It was a little cringy, but, you know, honestly, what isn't in 1997, 25 years ago? So yeah, solid Rent. I don't need to buy it. I don't probably need to see it for another 25 years. But again, if it was maybe on TBS and I was scrolling through and it was the, you know, back half of it, sure, maybe I would watch it.
Matt, where are you?
I mean, ultimately, it's not a bad movie, I suppose, but I gotta say it's a skip for me. It's not a good enough movie to recommend to people to watch either. There's funnier movies out there, even if they are maybe probably cringier. This is just kind of a tepid film at the end of the day. So I'm going to say skip it.
Yeah, I'm going to say that I'm glad I saw this 25 years ago, but I could have easily lived through 2022 without seeing it again. So I'm going to call it a skip, too. It just, you know, part of this whole show, I think, is how do these artifacts age? And I think this movie just aged really badly. There's just a lot about the truth of a gay person's life and experience that it just misses in a really big way. And again, I'm just going to say it. I think if there were any gay people on the set of this movie, it might have, or that had the director's ear, it might have helped immeasurably. But, you know, Paul Rudnick wrote a funny, at times, yes, zany script. I mean, that whole cassette tape thing that ended in a dance fest to the Village People that was actually coming from the same stereo as the tape, pretty zany, but ultimately it all just kind of is like, what does this movie even mean? So yeah, I'm not, you know, I can't say that I'm even glad that I watched it again. It can kind of, I think this movie needs to stay back in 1997.
Wow, I'm never the most generous person. I'm never the most generous person.
I'm telling you, I told you this last time. I am going to be a lot freer with skips this time. I used to say, well, I'm going to say Rent because, you know, at least I can say that I saw it. Though that is no longer a good reason to give a rental. You know, At least I can say that I saw it is not there for me anymore. So yeah, I'm not mad at it. I just think that it was good in 1997. And I think it's no longer a good movie in 2002. I think the world has just changed too much and left this movie behind.
I hope I'm not getting nicer. Yikes.
Oh, we'll let you know.
Time is precious.
We'll let you know.
I don't want to lose my snark, gentlemen.
I'm getting meaner. That's what's happening. I mean, I made a conscious decision that I'm way too nice at the end of this show, and I'm gonna feel free.
I love
to
it.
skip a movie when it just doesn't do it for me.
Living your truth.
Yeah. So, folks, that does it for this week. Thanks so much for tuning in. I am Eric.
I'm Allie.
I'm Matt.
We will see you next time for Keanu Reeves and Al Pacino chewing some big-time scenery and the Devil's Advocate. That will be next week. I hope you will join us then. In the meantime, be kind, rewind.
You've been listening to The Rewind Project. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Radio Public, and Google Play. Please subscribe and rate us. It helps a lot. We love your comments and questions. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and via our new phone number at 202-618-2402. Thanks for listening. Be kind. Rewind.
Oh, you were talking about, Joan Cusack wanting to get laid.